The story begins in the middle of outer space, where an unidentified object is heading straight toward Earth. After passing through the atmosphere, it flies toward the bedroom window of a boy named Josh, who is watching the sky through his telescope. Josh is startled and quickly moves out of the way. The object bounces around his room before landing inside his aquarium. When his mother, Gina, hears the noise, she comes in to check on him. Josh explains what happened, but she doesn't believe him and tells him to go to bed because it's already late. Once Gina leaves, Josh approaches the aquarium to take another look at the mysterious object. Suddenly, it starts sucking up all the water, creating a small whirlpool around itself. 3 months later, a huge fireball crashes down near the Statue of Liberty, but instead of a meteor or comet, the object has the shape of a human being wearing a white suit and tie. Although it looks like an ordinary person, this strange being can use advanced technology to repair its body and clothes. He also moves in a very robotic way. A few minutes after arriving, he walks over to a boat where he has his first encounter with humans. A woman kindly smiles at him, but the mysterious man tries to smile back with a series of strange facial expressions. Meanwhile, at a nearby police station, Sergeant McIntyre sends 2 officers, Stevie and Deli, to investigate the fireball. They have no idea that the strange man from outer space is already wandering around New York, studying humans and their customs. Dave copies people's gestures, stands in front of a family while they're trying to take a picture, and even plays with a doll that blows soap bubbles. Eventually, he tries to cross the street without realizing that the traffic signal means pedestrians have to stop. A car hits him and sends him flying. By coincidence, the driver is Gina, who immediately gets out and runs over to help him. Even though the accident appears to have broken his legs, the strange man simply gets back on his feet as if nothing happened and walks away before Gina can do anything. A few minutes later, he hides in an alley where the truth is finally revealed. The man is actually a spaceship disguised as a human. Inside are tiny alien beings who look similar to humans. Each one is identified by the number on their uniform, and they're led by a captain who designed the ship to look exactly like himself. The captain examines the damage caused by the car accident and orders the crew to make the necessary repairs. He then reminds everyone of their main mission. They have to recover the orb that crashed on Earth. The aliens need the orb because it collects salt from the oceans, which is the main source of energy for their home planet, Nil. Luckily, the alley where they're hiding is right next to Josh's house. Josh is getting ready for school when he looks out the window and sees what appears to be the same man from the accident standing in the alley. He immediately tells his mother, and the two of them go outside to investigate. Gina recognizes the stranger and tries to apologize for accidentally hitting him. Inside the ship, the aliens become nervous because this is their first real contact with a human. The captain finally activates the ship's speaker to talk to Gina, but the volume is so loud that it hurts her and Josh's ears. After the crew fixes the problem, the captain accepts Gina's apology. Gina then invites him into her house. Once inside, she offers him a glass of water and asks what his name is. Since the captain doesn't have an answer, he asks number 3 to list some of the most common names in the world. He then chooses one and introduces himself as Dave. As Dave continues talking with Gina, he notices a photograph inside one of the cupboards. It shows Josh holding the orb. Now that he knows where his target is, Dave says goodbye to Gina and heads out to find the boy. On his way to school, Dave's formal suit attracts plenty of attention. The captain realizes they need to change his appearance, so he orders the crew to find a place where they can get some new clothes. They take Dave to a clothing clearance store. After picking out a shirt, the crew tries to make him put it on, but the ship's controls aren't prepared for the maneuver. Dave gets stuck in the clothing and starts struggling to free himself. Instead of helping, his movements cause him to knock over several things around the store. Fortunately, one of the employees helps him choose a more comfortable outfit. The only problem is that Dave still needs to pay. Using his scanner, Dave copies the design of the money. When he enters the fitting room, he starts producing several copies of it, which end up coming out in a very strange place. Now dressed more normally, Dave and the crew continue their search for Josh. Meanwhile, Josh is playing with the orb at school when a bully from his class takes it away from him. A short time later, Dave arrives at the school and finds Josh's classroom. The two talk, and Josh explains that the bully took the orb, but he has already left. They agree to look for him at a store he usually visits. However, when they arrive, the boy is nowhere to be found. Suddenly, 2 armed robbers enter the store and demand everyone's money. They order everyone to get down on the floor and stay quiet. Everyone obeys except Dave, who simply stands there and stares at them. One of the robbers points his gun at him, and number 2 becomes so angry that he asks the captain to teach them a lesson. Then one of the thieves tries to punch Dave in the face. Dave easily catches his fist with one hand and throws him into a pile of soft drinks. The other robber points his revolver directly at Dave's face. But with just a squeeze of his fingers, Dave crushes the barrel of the gun and tosses it aside. Terrified, the robber runs away. Josh is amazed by Dave's abilities and invites him to stay at his house until they find the orb. Number 2 doesn't like the idea, but the captain explains that they need Josh's help to locate the artifact. So Dave and Josh head back to the boys' house. Josh becomes even more impressed when he watches Dave play a video game using only one hand. A few seconds later, Gina arrives home, and Josh tells her everything that happened. Gina thanks Dave for saving her son's life and invites him to stay for dinner. Meanwhile, near the Statue of Liberty, officers Deli and Stevie investigate the spot where the fireball crashed. After cleaning up the area, they use plaster to make a mold of what was left behind. Deli is shocked to discover that the object that fell from the sky appears to have the shape of a human face. He doesn't know it yet, but the face belongs to Dave, who is currently having dinner with Gina and Josh. After the meal, the ship notices a picture hanging on the wall. The captain asks what it is, and Gina explains that it's a heart, a symbol of what humans consider their greatest feeling, love. The crew doesn't understand the concept, so Gina explains that one day Dave will understand it when he experiences love for himself. The conversation continues, but eventually Dave decides to leave and find somewhere to rest. After wandering around for a while, he meets a homeless man who kindly offers him his only blanket. The aliens are surprised by this act of kindness, and they decide to accept the man's offer. With the ship in sleep mode, most of the crew goes to rest. However, the captain and number 3 remain awake because they're still curious about humanity. They meet in the cockpit, where number 3 tells the captain that she has discovered something humans love, the classic Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life. The two decide to watch it together. As the movie touches them, they briefly let their feelings for each other show. But before either of them can act on those feelings, they regain their composure and decide to focus on their mission. The next morning, Deli and Stevie return to the police station and show the sergeant their discovery. They claim that an alien shaped like a human being must have fallen from the sky with the fireball. The sergeant thinks the whole thing is ridiculous and tells them to get back to work. But Deli refuses to give up. He decides to publish a sketch of the strange alien in the hope that someone will recognize him and help them find him. Meanwhile, Dave finally wakes up and the captain receives some bad news. The ship only has 12 hours of power left. He orders everyone to focus on recovering the orb immediately. If they fail, they won't have enough energy to return to Neil. However, Gina and Josh invite their new friend to spend another night with them, and the captain decides to accept. The three head to an amusement park where Dave enters a hot dog eating contest. Thanks to his advanced technology, he swallows the hot dogs at incredible speed and easily wins a teddy bear. At number 3's request, the captain also makes Dave give the prize to Gina, which makes her very happy. The fun night continues until Josh's bully suddenly spots him at the park and starts bothering him again. Josh asks for the orb back, but the boy refuses and even tries to punch him. Just then, Dave steps in. He grabs the bully by the arm and lifts him upside down. The sudden movement causes the orb to fall out of the boy's jacket pocket. Dave finally gets the orb back. He then puts the bully back on his feet and warns him not to bother Josh again. With the orb back in their possession, Dave and the crew should be able to leave Earth and continue their mission. However, Gina and Josh invite them to keep having fun at the amusement park, and the captain agrees, even though number 2 keeps insisting that they need to get back to work. The three head over to a baseball game booth where players can try to knock down bottles with baseballs. On his first pitch, Dave misses completely, but the captain becomes so determined to win that he orders another pitch, this time with much more force. Unfortunately, the ball goes straight through the booth's netting, hits a rooster statue, and bounces right back into Dave's forehead. The impact shuts down the ship, causing everyone inside the cockpit to lose their balance. Hours later, Dave is taken to a hospital, where doctors try to revive him with a defibrillator. After several attempts, the electrical shock unexpectedly reactivates the ship and restores all of its energy. Gina and Josh are relieved to see Dave back on his feet, and the three leave the hospital together. But before they go, the captain orders Dave to invite Gina and Josh to dinner. This is the final straw for number 3, who calls the captain foolish for becoming so interested in humans. Furious, the captain orders her to leave the cockpit. After their argument, the captain continues talking with Gina, who chooses a Cuban restaurant for dinner. At that moment, one of the hospital nurses overhears the conversation and recognizes Dave from the sketch that Deli released. She immediately calls the police station and tells them that she has found their suspect. Later that night, Dave, Gina, and Josh enjoy dinner at the Cuban restaurant, while the crew inside the ship also has a great time. After a few drinks, Gina invites Dave onto the dance floor. The captain tries to control Dave's body and make him dance, but dancing clearly isn't his strong point. Number 4 decides to take over and shows everyone how it's done. Everyone continues enjoying the night, but number 2 has had enough. He considers the captain's behavior unacceptable and organizes a mutiny with several other members of the crew. As if things weren't complicated enough, Dealey and Stevie arrive at the restaurant and arrest Dave. They take him to an interrogation room, hoping to find out who he really is and what he is doing on Earth. Meanwhile, Number 3 and the other rebels enter the cockpit and announce that they're taking control of the ship. The captain tries to stop them, but Number 2 overpowers him and declares himself the new captain. The situation inside the ship becomes increasingly tense. Outside, Stevie gets tired of waiting for Dave to answer their questions and calls Dealey outside. The two officers discuss what to do with their prisoner, completely unaware that the crew inside Dave is now divided because of the mutiny. Number 2 then makes his intentions clear. He announces that from now on, their species and humanity are officially at war. His first order as the new captain is to get out of the interrogation room. He then orders the crew to activate the proton gun located on one of Dave's fingers. The ship aims at the wall and fires a massive blast of energy. The explosion shocks the police officers, who immediately open fire on Dave. But Number 2 activates Dave's heat shield, which takes the form of his all-white suit. The bullets bounce off without hurting him. The confrontation sends the crew into a panic, especially Number 17, who jumps out of Dave's ear and accidentally falls into a nearby coffee cup. The police continue firing, but their weapons are completely useless against Dave's protective shield. Dave heads toward the exit and finds Gina and Josh waiting for him. However, with Number 2 controlling the ship, Dave ignores his friends and fires his weapon again to escape. Outside, more police vehicles surround the alien ship. Number 2 fires at one of them, causing it to jump into the air and nearly crush one of the officers. Number 2 is amused by the destruction, but he needs to hurry. He orders Number 3 to find the fastest route back to the Statue of Liberty. Instead, Number 3 leaves the cockpit and heads toward the captain's cell. Once there, she takes out one of the guards and removes the captain's handcuffs. The two team up and attempt to deactivate the ship before the situation gets even worse. But more guards soon capture them and take them back to the cabin. Seeing the two as traitors, Number 2 decides to throw them out of the ship. With a command on the control panel, he ejects them through Dave's nose. Suddenly, the captain and Number 3 find themselves outside in a gigantic world where they're only a few inches tall. A basketball player drops his ball nearby, forcing them to run for their lives. They eventually reach a lamppost, but a passing dog notices them and starts sniffing around. The two quickly run away again, only to be caught in the blast from a man's leaf blower. The powerful air sends them flying in opposite directions. The captain lands safely on the sidewalk, but Number 3 ends up in the middle of the street with her foot stuck in a piece of chewing gum. The captain rushes over to help her, but a taxi suddenly comes speeding toward them. With no time to get out of the way, the two curl up on the ground. The taxi passes over them through a tiny gap in the tire, narrowly missing them. After surviving the close call, they look for Dave and eventually spot him walking down the street. To reach him, the captain grabs a plastic bag. Using the wind resistance, he and Number 3 manage to float toward Dave. They're almost back to the ship when a bus suddenly hits the plastic bag, trapping both of them against its windshield. Fortunately, the shuttle passes nearby. When the windshield wiper moves, it throws the two tiny aliens into the air, giving them enough momentum to reach Dave and climb back inside. As soon as they're aboard, Number 2 orders the ship to move faster, but the ship has very little energy left. The villain then uses Dave's incredible strength to stop a taxi in the middle of the road and orders the driver to take him to the Statue of Liberty. Meanwhile, back at the police station, Stevie calls for backup while Dealey picks up the coffee cup and discovers Number 17 hiding inside. The tiny alien explains everything that has happened, and Dealey decides to help him find the spaceship. Nearby, Gina, Josh, and Mark are also driving around looking for Dave, because Josh is worried that his friend is in danger. Eventually, Dave reaches the Statue of Liberty. With Number 2 still in control, he prepares to throw the orb into the ocean so it can begin collecting salt from the water. The other members of the crew warn him that doing this could seriously disrupt Earth's environment and put all life on the planet at risk. But Number 2 doesn't care. He orders Dave to throw the orb into the open sea. Luckily, the real captain and Number 3 reach the engine room just in time. They activate Dave's secondary controls, stopping his arm before he can launch the orb. Number 2 refuses to give up and fights for control of the ship. The struggle causes Dave to lose his balance, and the orb is accidentally released into the ocean. The orb immediately begins creating a massive whirlpool as it absorbs huge amounts of water. The destruction of Earth now seems almost certain. The captain manages to return to the cockpit and orders the crew to remove Number 2 from command. The villain tries to resist, But the crew chooses to follow their real captain's orders and sends number 2 to the back of the ship to be imprisoned. With the mutiny over, the captain takes back control. However, the orb is still absorbing the planet's water. The only way to stop it is to use Dave's remaining energy to pull the orb back, but doing so will leave the ship without enough power to return to Neil. Faced with the choice between saving themselves or saving Earth, the captain and the crew decide to protect the planet. They redirect the remaining energy into Dave's right arm. A powerful magnetic force shoots from his hand and pulls the orb back toward him. Dave grabs the orb and immediately throws it into space, where it finally disintegrates. Earth is saved. Shortly afterward, Gina, Josh, and Mark find Dave, who is completely out of power. Dealey, number 17, and Stevie also arrive. Stevie points his gun at the alien ship, but the situation is extremely dangerous. Without enough energy to activate the ship's shields, even one shot could destroy the ship and kill everyone inside. Josh realizes what he needs to do. Remembering what happened at the hospital, he grabs the officer's taser and uses it on Dave. The electrical shock completely restores the ship's energy. The entire crew celebrates. The captain then exits through the top hatch of Dave's mouth and finally meets Gina and Josh in person. He explains who they really are and why they came to Earth. With everything finally out in the open, the captain thanks Josh for his courage and thanks Gina for teaching him about love, something he has also come to understand through his feelings for number 3. The crew prepares to return to Neil. Before leaving, number 17 climbs out of Dealey's pocket and asks him to put him back inside the ship. With the entire crew together again, Dave activates his thrusters and prepares to fly into space. But just before they can take off, the FBI arrives and captures the ship in a giant net. Several agents quickly move in to take Dave away. Fortunately, the crew has one last way to escape. They activate the escape pod hidden inside Dave's foot. His foot transforms into a small rocket and launches the ship toward their home planet. With Dave and the crew safely on their way home, Gina and Josh watch them disappear into the sky.